Hey guys, I apologize in advance for the heater that you can most likely hear. My hands are freezing cold and my knuckles are stiff beyond belief, and I figured I need to warm them up. And in the meantime, I'm going to go ahead and get into the Letters from a Madman rewrite edit discussion with you guys. It is currently 9:36 in the morning on February 10th, and I started the rewrite edit on February 7th, which was a Friday, and that Friday is the only day so far that I have worked on it, and on that Friday I wrote 1,444 words. The original book is around 31,000 and something. I don't have an exact count written down, but it was around 31,000. I'll get the exact number to you guys at some point in this video. I just don't have the document open at the moment. But I'm going to go ahead and walk you through a few things here. My new editing process that I'm following for 2020, because I have changed up the process since 2019. What Letters from a Madman is, and what stuff is going to go into the rewrite edit here. So first things first, I'm actually going to discuss Letters from a Madman first and then get into the editing process. So Letters from a Madman is a crime novella following two detectives, Taki and Hilo, from the Riley Police Department in New York, which is a fake police department in New York. And the premise of the book right now, and I think the main premise will stay the same, but there are a lot of things about it that I wanted to differ a little bit, because I know I had a lot of issues with it when it was first written, because I was trying to hurry the book along specifically so I could finish it to start something else. God only knows what, probably a Beau Austin novel, but that's not the point. But it follows these two detectives working a case behind their lieutenant's back because it's a case that they worked 20 years ago. The book starts on the 20th anniversary of the crime being committed, and it is them secretly working to finally find out who committed that crime because they are receiving letters from the criminal. Letters from a madman. And right now, the ending's super rushed. That needs to be fixed. There are some criminal procedures and forensic investigation procedures that definitely need to be tweaked and fixed and so on and so forth. And I think there are a lot of aspects that are going to change, but we'll see how much of them get changed here in the rewrite and how many of them get changed in the developmental edit, which is what we're going to talk about now. So I have already gone through and reworked my editing process. Currently we are at step 1, which is the rewrite edit. You take the document in its entirety in one screen, which is what this edit is. I usually have it on my phone. If I had it open, I would show you, but right now it's just my word count app. But I usually have that document, the original document, open on my phone, and then on my tablet or the desktop at this very moment, I have the new document open, and I retype every single thing that I've written for the book. Not word for word. Obviously, the point is to change sentence structure, character dialogue, character description, chapter openings, so on and so forth. I've already added a brand new intro to the book, and I've already separated the first chapter into 2 chapters, because the first chapter follows Hilo for the first scene and then switches over to Taki, and that doesn't follow or correspond with how the second book is set up in structure, because it switches between the characters every chapter rather than every scene. So I'm going to be keeping an eye out for that as well. But that's the rewrite edit, which is the one I'm working on now. Edit 2 will be a Grammarly edit, which is when I just put it through Grammarly, and I'll go into more details into these things later on in the series when I actually do an individual video in each of them. But I just want to run you through the steps that I'll be taking this year. So Grammarly edit, I put each chapter into the free version of Grammarly. I don't use the paid version. And I only go through the changes that Grammarly suggests. So I'm not rereading the document. It takes about a week, generally less. And I just only go through the suggestions Grammarly makes. So if I spot errors outside of that, I generally don't make the corrections. Sometimes I do if I'm afraid that I'm going to miss them again. But otherwise, I go through the list that Grammarly puts together and accept the ones that make sense and disregard the ones that don't. The developmental story edit is number 3. I think that used to be number 4 or 5. But this one, I go through the whole document, I take notes on the whole thing, I go through the timeline of the whole thing, figure out what makes sense, what doesn't, what needs to be tweaked, if new stuff needs to be added, if stuff needs to be removed, so on and so forth. Edit 4 is a normal copy edit. Grammar, consistency, characters, structure, so on and so forth. Number 5 is a different font edit. I currently type in Times New Roman 12-point font. I change it to a random font size. I edit the whole document in that. The theory is that when your brain sees a font that it is not used to, it is forced to read slower and will, in theory, pick out mistakes that it can't pick out when it's looking at the font that it's used to. Because it will just fill in the blanks if it's used to just reading over them. 6 is, I call it a Google Translate edit, but nowadays I send the chapters to my email on my iPad and have my iPad read it out to me, but I used to have Google Translate read it out to me. The main goal is to hear the words spoken, whether you speak them yourself or a robot does it for you. I personally can't do edits where I am reading them out loud throughout the whole book, or else it would take me several months because of my TMJ and my jaw pain. But either way, the ear can pick out mistakes that the eyes skim over. 7 is another normal copy edit, 8 is another Grammarly edit, and edit 9, the whole thing is formatted into the PDF proof that will eventually be published as a paperback, and I do a proofread. Check to make sure all commas are correct, all of the apostrophes looked uniform, that the open and close quotes are in the right spots, character names are all spelled correctly, normal words are spelled correctly, that kind of thing. But those are the 9 edits that I'll go through for all of my books that I edit this year. So far with this edit, I've only finished chapter 1 and started chapter 2. But with that being said, this is how I keep track of my things. Because I haven't finished chapter 1 of the original document, I haven't crossed out chapter 1 yet, but these are all of the original chapters, and I will cross them out as I go. This is to keep track of things that I don't know yet. When I started writing chapter 1, I didn't have Hilo's eye color or his hair color. Still don't. Pretty sure it's black, though. I can't find my list where those characters originally are, but I'm looking for it. And here I have no idea what Taki's kid's name is. It's been a long time since I've worked on this book, so I have no idea who most of the characters are. I know Hilo, Taki, and Andrew, who is their lieutenant, but that's about it. But because I didn't know what her kid's name was, I just filled it in the book with this, and when I have the kid's name, I will go back through and do a find and replace and replace it. But that's one of the main things I have for it. I also have character details to keep track of the main things, although I've been very bad at filling it out as I'm writing, but that's okay. That's kind of how I roll. I'm terrible at filling things out 80% of the time. But this is just to keep track of the main facts, and then there will eventually be another page to keep track of case details. And then the other thing I'm going to do, but haven't started yet, is one of these, which this one is for The Abduction of the Jensens, which is another crime novella I'm writing. But this is just to show you what it is. It's a to-do list. I know, it's a lot. But it goes through every single thing that the characters are planning on doing, and I put a little box next to it. And when they accomplish that thing, I check mark it. And generally I highlight that check mark, but I haven't made it around to that just yet on this particular list. But it helps make sure that the majority of the things that the characters wanted to do gets done in the first draft, or in this case, the rewrite. And I never did that when I wrote the first book, so the first draft of this book, as in Letters from a Madman. So I'm hoping that doing it for the rewrite helps keep things more organized, but we'll see. But that's all that I have for this particular installment of this video. I will get back to you guys when I have more details to go into. I'm not going to update you every single day that I work on it, or this video will be super, super long, but I will probably update you one more time before I finish the rewrite. Game plan right now is to finish the rewrite edit on February 29th, or beforehand. But if I finish it the 29th, I have all of the other edits already planned out to the point where I can publish this book on August 2nd. If I stick to the plan, if I stick to the deadlines and so on and so forth. And even that gives me about a month of wiggle room, because with how it's planned right now, if everything goes well, Letters from Madman will actually be able to go up for pre-order on June 30th. So it gives me an entire month of wiggle room if things happen to go wrong, either because of my pain or the cold or just technical issues or anything. I have a month of wiggle room, which is something. But again, game plan is to finish this edit, the rewrite edit, before or on February 29th, and if I can do that, I will remain on track. So hopefully I will see you guys at least one more time before the 29th, and hopefully I will see you on the 29th with a finished draft of this book. But we will see, and I will keep you guys as updated as I possibly can. But for right now, I'm going to get to writing in Abduction of the Jensens and work my way back around to Letters from Madman. So, I'll see you guys soon. Hey guys, it is currently 1:10 in the morning on February 25th, and I'm getting ready to work on the Letters from Madman rewrite edit here, but since this is the last week of February, I wanted to give you an update on where things are. I'm going to move you back just a smidge there. There we go. So I've been keeping track of all of my writing finally in an actual planner again, which is beautiful. I used to keep track of all my stuff in a planner. It helps me organize my thoughts, but I haven't had one for a while, and I actually have one again. So, and also these were originally loose leaf papers, and if you want loose leaf paper planners and you can't find binders that fit for them, this is not a real paper size. It's not A6, it's not A5, and these only line up specifically with the binder that this company ships, and the binder is huge, and it takes up way too much room in my space here. So, 3 layers of tacky glue, and this is now bound like a paperback book. It's bound. Just 3 layers of tacky glue on the spine, just in case. But while I'm keeping track of all my writing and stuff, I'm also keeping track of how many days I've worked on Letters from a Madman. So if I work on it today, which I'm going to here in a moment, this will be day 8 of actually writing in Letters from a Madman. I have 12 or 13 work in progresses, and I rotate through them all. And today is the first time that I'm skipping the other books in order to get to Letters from Madman. I'm skipping like 7 work in progresses to get to this one today, because I had planned on getting through the other ones yesterday, but I just didn't get to it. But I need to write 3,700 and something, I think, give or take, today and every other day this month in order to hit the goal for things to finish the book by the end of the month. But as it stands, that's a little difficult because this book, the rewrite edit, isn't just adding scenes and adding details and adding character details and whatnot. I'm also changing a lot, and generally I'm not changing a ton during my rewrite edits. When I did the rewrite edit for Eve Lincoln, I added a ton of stuff, but I wasn't like actively changing plot points or tweaking the plot points so they were a little better or anything like that, because I was pretty satisfied with Eve Lincoln. I'm pretty proud of everything I've written in the past several years. Letters from Madman, however, when I wrote it, was rushed, so that way I could finish it and move on to other stuff at the same time, because I was either approaching a nano or I wanted to finish it before the end of a nano or something. But whatever it was, I rushed to finish it. And because of that, I'm not happy with a lot of the plot points. I feel like a lot of things like happen, like, oh, I want to do this, and the characters want to do this, and so on and so forth, but then those things like never happen. And I just don't like the ending that much. I like the way that the book ends, like I like the chapter that it ends on, but the chapter before that, where they actually catch the guy, I don't like that ending. I think it's too is the phrase ham-fisted? I don't know. It's too forced. It doesn't work. It doesn't make sense. It's something that I took control over. I took control away from my characters, and I forced it in there. I made it happen. And I don't like doing that. That's what I did when I wrote, like, the Kathy Baker series, and I hate that series with a burning passion. That's what I did when I wrote the Ashley Jones trilogy, and although I do like that better than Baker, I still feel like the characters are a little closer to one-dimensional than they are to three-dimensional, so they're closer to 2D, give or take. And the plot points still are sort of kind of there, but I forced a lot of drama into their lives just for the sake of drama. And that's sort of what happens with Letters from a Madman. So the rewrite is taking me longer because I'm not just rewriting the scenes, I'm switching stuff around, like, completely. I also realized that the chapter formats are off compared to what they are in Beatings from a Butcher, which I modeled Beatings from a Butcher after Letters from a Madman in the way that the chapters are set up, so I don't know how the hell that happened, but it did. Because in Beatings from a Butcher, every 4 chapters is from the killer's point of view, and, well, technically in Butcher's, it's not from the killer's point of view, but it's from who they have arrested as the killer, but it's very quickly revealed that it's not him, but it's still his point of view for those chapters. But in Letters from a Madman, it was every 5 chapters, so I don't know how that got screwed up. But that was one of the first things I did. I went, and you can see my notes here. These are all the things I've corrected so far. I added a new intro to the book, broke chapter 1 into 2 chapters, changed the main plot points to include another detective rather than Hilo and Taki pulling prints from the letter themselves. I moved chapter 5 to chapter 4, chapter 10 to chapter 8, moved 15 to 12, and 20 to 16, and then I wrote a completely brand new chapter 5, which is the main plot point thing that I just talked about there with another detective. That chapter was initially about them, I think, ordering stuff for the initial plot point, but now that that's not the case, chapter 5 needed a whole-ass new rewrite, so I couldn't use any of the stuff that's in the book at all. Chapter 4 got moved to chapter 7, chapter 6 got moved to chapter 9, and chapter 7 got moved to chapter 10, and chapter 7 is the one that I'm working on right now. In the original document, there are 24 chapters. Out of the original document, I have completely rewritten 1 through 6, 10, 15, and 20 so far. Those are the chapters I've edited, or rewritten. Rewrite edited. And in the new document, I'm currently writing chapter 10, which again is chapter 7 of the original document. And I think there's a lot of usable stuff in that. What are they doing in chapter 7? They are taking a break. They're at the end of the day. I think they're at the end of the work day. And they're going to Taki's house to check out a window in her bedroom to see what they can see from that window for reasons that are explained in the book. But I don't want to go into a ton of detail. I don't want to spoil a whole bunch of stuff. I'm mostly just telling you stuff that's revealed super quickly so it's not, like, spoilery. And that can all be used, because that still happens in this book. That still takes place. That still makes sense. And there was another thing that they had to do, but I don't remember what it is. You're sitting on my keyboard, so I'm going to lift you up. The other thing they needed to do was... go over the fingerprint results. Because initially, they are the ones who pull the prints from the first letter they receive, Letters from a Madman, and they're the ones who test them, so they have the results, you know, in their hands already. But in the rewrite, they enlist the help of a fellow detective to get the forensic analyst to pull a favor for them, to run the prints for them without telling any of their superiors or putting it into the system. Because they don't want any red flags going off, because the letters recall or say they're not allowed to ask for any of their superiors, or there could be dangerous consequences. That is all in the description of the book, so it is not a spoiler. But the goal is for them to go over the results from that forensic analyst. And I actually think at this point they should have 2 results, one from the first letter and one from the second letter. And then they also need to go over the window thing. The window thing is already in this original document here. So rewriting that stuff takes a much shorter amount of time. But the other thing with the fingerprints and the results of that is a completely new situation, because that's not in the original book, or at the very least it's not in this chapter. They do technically go over fingerprint results in the original book, or at least they should. Who knows if I ever wrote that. But if it is in there, I can technically use that a little bit and re-finagle some things, but generally so much of the book I'm rewriting from scratch. I'm basically just writing it. So it's taking a bit longer when I do get to work on it, and that's not a huge problem. It just slows down progress, especially when I want to have it done by the 29th, and it's currently the 25th, which gives me 5 days counting today and the 29th. Again, I have like a month of wiggle room, so if I don't finish it by the end of this month, it's not the absolute end of the world by any means. I would just like to have that wiggle room, especially because the more wiggle room I have, the longer the ebook can remain up for pre-order. And the longer I can build up hype and do posts on Instagram and Twitter and Facebook and all of that. But we'll see how things go. And otherwise, the only other thing that I'm doing right now is still the character detail stuff is ongoing, although I've been very bad at writing in it. I generally am. Especially because I have really bad knuckle pain a lot of the time, so I start these and then I normally don't finish them until I finish the book. And then the to-do list here, which I also haven't filled out since, like, chapter 4, give or take. So I need to do that too, but doing it at the end of the book also doesn't cause any huge issues, because there are at least 7 more edits. I think 8. I don't know where my sticky note is. It's general consensus. I never know where my sticky note is. But there's a lot to do. And finishing those to-do lists at the end of the book isn't a huge problem, which is the sentence I initially started and then forgot about. Because at the end, if I do all the notes there are at least 7 or 8 more edits where the things that they didn't actually complete, that they were supposed to complete in the original book, can be added in the later edits. Because this isn't the only edit that I do that tweaks scenes or details or adds or deletes scenes or character details, descriptions, dialogue, any of that. Pretty much all of the edits change that except for the last one. The last edit is proofreading. So I have time to finish all that other stuff. But hooray for all of that, I guess? I'm not sure. I feel jumbled. I feel good with the progress I've made in the book. I feel like I do enjoy this draft a lot better. But I still feel like I don't really know Hilo and Taki that well. When I wrote their initial book, I always felt like I didn't have characters I was listening to tell a story. I just had ideas of the existence of these two, I don't know, paper dolls. And I was forcing words to come from them, but it never gave me a real personality from either of them. And I feel like I'm fleshing them out a little bit more in this draft, and I feel like I have finally sort of connected with them during this rewrite edit, but I still feel like it's not nearly as much of a connection as I normally have. Because some people, they plot their books, and they don't let their characters deviate at all from that. There are people who plot their books and then they still give some of the control to their characters, so their outline will change as they progress, and their characters will never follow each one of those plot points all the way through, and they prefer it that way. And there are free writers who do very small plot points, like they know how they want it to begin, or the end, or the middle, or all three, and they let their characters fill in the in-between stuff completely. And there are free writers like me who know absolutely nothing going in. I don't know the beginning until it's written, I don't know the middle until it's written, I don't know the end until it's written, and I don't know any of the stuff in between until it's written. And then I fix the inconsistencies and the plot holes during the edits. And I prefer it that way. But in order to write it that way, I have to have a connection to the characters. I have to have the characters speaking to me. The characters need to be telling me their story in order for me to write it that way. And during the first draft of Letters from Madman, I don't think that was really there. So in this draft, while I'm sort of kind of on the very basic edge of them actually sharing their story, I still feel like I'm not as connected to it as I am with, like, Bo Austin or Jamal Pittman, and that makes it difficult, jumbled, and foggy for me. But despite that difficult, jumbled, foggy feeling, I'm really enjoying the rewrite edit. It may take me much longer to do it on some days than it does others. I don't get to work on it every day because I have other things I'm working on. But I'm still happy with the direction things are going. I'm happy with the plot point change. I'm happy that we meet Fletch in this book, which is the detective that's one of the main characters in Beaties from Butcher. I'm happy of the changes. I'm proud of the changes that are being made, and I'm happy with what those changes are doing to the story. But I still feel like it's going to take me a minute to fully grasp the personality of Hilo and Taki to their fullest extent. I have definitely gotten more out of them, but I feel like there are just some aspects of their supposed personality that I forced the first time that don't make sense at all. And I'm working on ironing those out throughout the editing process here. Maybe not in the rewrite edit, because I'm just focusing on getting the rewrite edit down. But they'll be ironed out throughout after it hopefully sees beta readers and stuff like that. Because readers have seen the initial draft, but no one but me has seen the rewrite edit in progress so far. But that's all I have for the 25th. I just wanted to give you an update on how things were going and get all of my thoughts out there, because I've mostly been keeping them inside my head. And I don't know, I feel like talking it out even a little bit helps. Some people have writer friends to bounce things off of. I don't at all. I generally don't talk a ton about the actual inner workings of my stories, and that's not, like, because, like, there are some people who won't because they're scared someone else is going to steal their idea. That's not why. If my ideas are worth stealing, and that person writes it better than me, completely better than me, I probably shouldn't be writing the idea right now anyway. But I just don't have a real sounding board. So sometimes I get really stuck in my head about how progress is coming along, or the way that the story is unfolding, or the way that the characters are or aren't talking. So sometimes just sitting down and rambling about it for a little bit helps me. And that's kind of nice. Especially since I have to work on this rewrite edit next. I feel like it's nice to sit down and unravel all of the threads that are jumbled up and wadded up in my mind about this book. But I am happy with progress on it. I am proud of the progress on it, and I'm currently much more, I don't know, I'm happier with the way this book is coming so far, and I hope that stays true all the way through. At the moment, out of the initial expected, this app has to reload. Out of the initial expected 31,000, I'm currently at 12,970. So, again, like 3,700-ish words today, tomorrow, the day after, and the day after, and maybe the day after, depending on how many I said. But, I just hope it goes well. Even if I don't finish it by the end of the month, I don't want to rush it. That is not the goal. But I do want to finish it and make good progress on it. So, hooray for all of that, I think. But that's all I've got for the 25th. I feel like this will probably be its own separate video just because it's so long, but we'll see how things happen and go together when I'm editing these. But yeah, I won't do an outro here because, again, I'm not 100% sure if this will be its own video or if it will be the beginning of another video or what, because I'm not editing these videos yet, so I have no idea what will fall, but either way, I'm happy with how things are coming along now, and I hope I continue to stay happy with it. Whether I finish this book on the 29th or shortly thereafter, I will see you either the day that I finish it or the morning immediately after, just depending on when I have time to film it, but that will be the next time I see you. So I am excited, I'm nervous, but I am ready to continue on the rewrite edit path here. So whether it be in this video or the next video, I will see you guys when the rewrite edit of Letters from Madman is complete.